The former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted on charges of lying to Congress as President Donald Trump steps up his campaign against political adversaries. Comey is accused of making false statements and obstructing justice over the investigation into whether Russia interfered in the 2016 presidential election, which Donald Trump won. The federal prosecutor appointed in the case says Comey could face up to 5 years in jail if convicted. Trump earlier took the unusual step of urging the Attorney General Pam Bondi to act against Comey and others he sees as being against him. Ethan Bearman is an adjunct professor at Loyola Law School in Los Angeles and a political commentator. Welcome back to DW, Ethan. Now, a former FBI chief who once went after Trump is now facing charges. Talk to us about the significance of this development.
Well, this is one of the more egregious uses of the Department of Justice by a sitting president in recent memory. As a matter of fact, I think we have to go back to what was referenced as the Saturday Night Massacre under President Richard Nixon in the early 1970s to find something this obvious and aggressively on its face partisan and used for his own purposes. And I think that this actually exceeds that. Because historically, and the way the system is set up is that the Department of Justice is, bends toward what the president considers to be its priorities, but does not turn into his or her, in the case of the United States, only his personal attack dog to go after critics of his. And interestingly enough, about former FBI Director James Comey is, he's not popular with Democrats either. This is purely a move on the part of Donald Trump because of the 2016 Russian interference investigation.
Now, Ethan, you just mentioned it there. You're sort of saying the Justice Department has this long-standing tradition of being independent over the decisions into what it feels should be prosecuted. Has this changed now under Donald Trump?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is really on its face. It's undeniable. The former Eastern District of Virginia, which is where this case is being brought against former FBI Director James Comey, USA Siebert stepped down just a few days ago because the pressure that our president was putting on him to indict people like James Comey, like California Representative Adam Schiff, his perceived enemies, that U.S. attorney stepped down. And what's fascinating about this case today being brought forward is President Trump put in one of his own defense attorneys who has never prosecuted a case before, Lindsay Halligan, who's a known, very fierce Trump defender. He appointed her as U.S. attorney just the other day. We had a Truth Social post from the president that was aggressively going after sitting Attorney General Pam Bondi for not prosecuting. And what's so particularly egregious about today's action that I think it would be very susceptible to a motion to dismiss in federal court, and possibly for what we would more colloquially call malicious prosecution, is that the prosecutors, according to ABC News, had written what is called a declination letter, meaning there was insufficient evidence for even probable cause to bring charges against James Comey. Yet in spite of that letter, as being reported by another news organization, this U.S. attorney has chosen to bring the charges without other signers on the indictment. This is really unprecedented, at least in my study of 20th century precedent, let alone the 21st century.
As ever, Ethan, we really appreciate your insights and your legal analysis. That's Ethan Bearman, an adjunct professor at Loyola Law School in Los Angeles.
Thanks for having me back on, Jared.